would like to introduce you to two very special people. It's Peter and Carolyn, and the other night I had the honor of attending an opera evening at the manor house. And let me show you some snippets that I took during that evening. Okay, Peter, can you tell us something more about the manor house? When was it built? When did you move here? And from where?
Yes, we spent a long time actually trying to find the perfect house. Had lots of lovely reconnoitering weekends all over France.
Right.
And when we saw this, it's what the French call a coup de cœur. You just fall in love with it.
Yes.
And it was a January day, it was snowing. You could hardly see the place, but we got the right vibes and all that.
Great.
And we moved here in 2000, so we've been here 23 years.
Wow, okay.
When was it built? 17?
It was built in 1758.
1758.
Yes.
Wow.
For a nobleman who owned about 25 square kilometres around the house, with lots of little farms and
Chapel.
a chapel, yes.
Right.
And a lot of tied workers in small farms.
Okay.
Which was probably one of the reasons for the revolution. During the revolution, the French Revolution, the house was confiscated by the revolutionary government, and the family had to leave it and live in one of their little fermettes.
Okay.
And in fact, the nobleman who had inherited it became an émigré with his brother. They rode overnight up to the north of France, right. Took a boat over to England to try and raise an army to fight against the revolutionary government.
Wow, quite a history.
Yes.
You. And tell me, how did you get involved with the opera?
Oh well, we had to do a huge amount of work to the house. New roof, new electrics, new plumbing, right. Everything had to be done. It took about 3 years. And at the end of that 3 years, we wanted to throw a party, which is tradition in France. They have a party when you finish building a house called a crémaillère.
It's pendre la crémaillère, which means hang up the thing in the fireplace on which you hang your cauldron to cook.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, beautiful.
So we had this big party, and because the house was built in the 1750s, we thought it'd be nice to have an opera to sort of celebrate. We couldn't quite organise in time to have a proper opera, but we did find some singers from Bedfordshire Youth Opera, some young singers who came over, and up in our grenier, up in the attic, which is vast, we had the party, and they sang arias from 3 different Mozart operas, which they'd strung together, these arias from the 3 operas.
Beautiful.
And created a new story. And it took about an hour, and it was very delightful.
Yes.
And then the next morning we were sitting outside having breakfast, and we said, now come on, next year come back and do a proper opera. And so
wow.
Yes, and we wanted, in particular, the Marriage of Figaro, because Beaumarchais wrote the play on which the Marriage of Figaro is based. And that was around about 1758 when this house was built.
So that's the connection, right. And then after that, it's an annual event?
Yes, what happened was that after the Figaro, we said, well, can we do another one next year? And they said, yes, they'd be delighted to. And we actually formed a company. We had a dog living here at the time called Loki, so the opera company was called Opera Loki. And Loki is the god of
Mischief.
God of mischief, which seemed very, very appropriate.
Perfect.
And in those first few years, all that happened was that we'd get young singers, and they'd come here, they'd spend a week rehearsing, and then they'd put on the performance, and we'd have all our friends come. And we just did the one performance, and then gradually over time, we became more professional, and we started going on tour. We had friends who said they'd like to host the opera. They had big chateaus, so that's really what happened. And every year for the last 10 or 12 years, we've gone on tour to 5 or 6 different chateaus, mostly near here, but also over in Burgundy. And we became a registered charity and a proper organisation, and that's how it happened.
And this was followed up by a tour in England as well, partly in London, and also probably about 5 or 6 performances in England as well.
Wonderful. Carolyn, you've written some books under the pseudonym Chloe.
Chloe Ray-Ban, yes.
Chloe Ray-Ban. Tell us about the books.
Well, the first one was about the opera company. And when we started, a friend and I did pretty well everything. We made the costumes, we got the sets, we painted the sets, we found the props, and I said, you know, it's going to be pretty hard to do all this. And Pam said to me, well, we've knitted 2 weddings, I'm sure we can knit an opera. And
that's
so we
where
called
the
the book
title comes
How to
from.
Knit an Opera. And it's a humorous book really about how Opera Loki started, and finding the house and finding the singers, and the first crazy years we had, which included the pianist actually falling out of an upstairs window into the shrubbery.
No.
Emerging unhurt, walking around the house trying to find another way in, finding a way in, climbing upstairs, walking through my sister's bedroom, and then knocking on our door, and I said, oh, come in, think it's my sister. And this figure, stark buck naked, walked through the room and out the other side. And the morning after, he came down, and I said, are you all right? He said, I'm fine, I've no idea what happened.
He left a trail of blood across the floor.
He did.
I mean, he had got a few injuries.
And my sister came down saying, Carolyn, do you think this house is haunted? And I said, no, I don't think it is. She said, well, like the strange white figure walking in my room.
And it was the pianist.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful story.
So stories like that are in this book.
Great. Where can people buy the books?
They can buy it on Amazon.
Amazon.
Particularly if they look on Amazon UK, because Amazon worldwide you can't always find our books, but if they look on Amazon UK they'll find How to Knit an Opera by Chloe Ray-Ban.
Okay.
It also goes into how we ran the opera, which was quite interesting, because what we wanted to do was give young singers who were either still at the music colleges,
Right.
mainly in England, or who had recently graduated. It's a terribly, terribly competitive world of opera singers. So trying to get gigs is really difficult.
Yeah.
Trying to get a big part, you might get in the
Yes.
chorus or something like that. So we were offering these young singers an opportunity to sing a big role in
Yes.
front of a big audience and so forth, and to give them a step up in their career. And what
That's
we did,
wonderful.
every year we auditioned for each opera, so we got different singers for each opera.
Right.
We got different directors, we got different stage managers, so even stage managers were given a leg up in their career.
Okay.
And for 20 years. And now we've got singers at the Royal Opera House, at Colosseum,
Glyndebourne.
at Glyndebourne. I mean, our singers from
Yes.
those early days have really, several of them have really done very,
One of
very, very
our
well.
singers won the Catherine Ferrier Soprano Prize, which is one of the
Amazing.
most prestigious prizes.
Yes.
And she's gone on to lead roles with the English National Opera. She's really done well.
Wow.
So we've had some pretty good success stories.
Yes,
actually.
yes.
And about 3/4 of the way through the last 20 years, we decided to form Opera Loki as a charity, and we had to do charitable aims, and our aims were to give young people a chance to develop their careers,
Yes.
and also to bring opera to a wider audience. So
Sure.
coming to the provinces in France has been extremely
Yes,
important.
yes.
And country house opera, which is very well developed in England, hardly exists in France. There are about 2 or 3 companies, and they're all British,
All
who
run by
do-
British people.
who
yeah.
do country house opera.
Okay.
So hopefully this idea of touring opera in the summer, in
Yes.
around big houses, bringing in an audience of people who might never have been to an opera before.
Right.
We've had many young people who've said, it's the first time I ever went to an
Yeah.
opera. I thought it really wasn't for me. It was boring,
Yeah.
loud, big people singing,
Yeah.
and
Elitist.
suddenly, yes, and also very elitist. And
Of
suddenly
course.
he said, well, it's fun. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. The
Yeah.
music was incredible.
That's wonderful.
Um,
I also love the idea that you bring it to rural France.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That is wonderful.
And people in the village get tickets for half price. The tickets are never more than 20 or 25 euros. So
That's very cheap.
really isn't-
Yeah.
isn't
Yeah.
difficult.
Carolyn, you've written more books than the one?
Yes, there's also this book. I got so fascinated by the history of this house. As I mentioned, we had an emigre who went to London to raise an army, that I thought I'd like to write a book about the history of the house. But I didn't want to make it a dry, old, historical book. I wanted to take episodes from the domestic lives of the people who've actually lived in this house and bring them to life. So I've written the book about a heroine, who's not me, who inherits the house, comes here after an unhappy love affair to try and sort her life out, and the house works its magic on her, and she falls in love with it. And she starts renovating it, and during the time of renovating it,
Yes.
she finds objects that have been lost or hidden or buried in the house. And each time she finds an object, I take the reader to an episode in the life of the person who owned that during the past. And the stories in the past, all the people are the actual people who've lived in this house.
So it's a mixture of fiction
Mixture of true
and
history, but also sort of
and
domestic
true
history, bringing it to
yes.
life.
That sounds wonderful.
It's a good read.
Well, you might be biased.
No, it's not, Peter. Are you? No. Peter and Carolyn, thank you so much. And once again, thank you for the other evening. It was
magical,
really
wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we were so lucky. It was lovely weather. We were able to sit
Yes.
outside in the courtyard.
Yeah.
No, it was
And
magical.
last night, the singers said, we have a little surprise for you. And they took us into the music room, and we had a little personal concert. And we had some
nice.
fantastic, each of them sang an aria. It was just absolutely
That's
incredible.
wonderful.
Yes.
Well, the
And
thing
that-
about opera singers is that they're lovely people. And
Yes.
most of them have got a second string to their bow. They've either got another job part-time or something, but they're incredibly intelligent. They've all been
Yes.
to university, they've all studied another subject and then done music. I mean, they're just so bright, energetic, lovely people, aren't they?
they are.
Yeah.
And we love having them here in the house.
Wonderful.
They eat a lot and they drink a lot too.
Oh, they
Which
do?
are part of our pleasures to share.
Thank you very, very much. Okay.